Before we start this week's GCN show, which as you'll see was filmed in advance, it's with great sadness that we bring you news of the death of professional cyclist Bjorg Lambrecht, who crashed during a stage of the Tour of Poland yesterday. He was a supremely talented cyclist whose career looked set for greatness. At just 22 years of age, he finished 4th in Flèche Wallonne and 6th in Amstel Gold this year, and his death will cast a long shadow over the cycling community. More than that though, he was a son, a brother, and a friend, and all of us here at GCN would like to send our sincerest condolences to those who knew him.
Welcome to the GCN Show!
Welcome to the GCN Show, brought to you by Wiggle.
This week we have a live audience. Give us a roar. And that's because we are in the stunning location that is Avoriaz for our GCN event.
We are indeed. Coming up on today's show, how much do pro cyclists actually earn? We've got the numbers and they might surprise you.
Plus we have all your usuals, GCN Inspiration, Extreme Corner, Hack and Bodges, and we've also got a story about Dylan Tones.
This week in the world of cycling, we learned that automatically fastening shoes are actually a thing. This is a video from Red Waters, an up-and-coming UK domestic pro who is the Redster 360 over on YouTube.
And then you press the dial and it tightens up. Right, so
I don't know about you, but I think that is pretty neat. Of course, unfortunately, they're not actually real, which had you fooled, didn't it, Dan?
It did, yeah. I sent Si quite an excited text message with a link to that, saying, have you seen these shoes? And he said, you do know, Dan, they're not actually real. It's just a trick of the edit. Although I fooled you last night when I showed you as well.
Yeah, I genuinely thought they were real as well. Maybe it'll come out in a firmware update in the future. Or maybe someone can make them and submit them to Hack and Bodges.
Well, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Yep, right. If Mathieu van der Poel wasn't already a top favourite for the upcoming World's Road Race Championships in Yorkshire, then after this, he certainly must be. This is the bridge at the bottom of the Grinston Moor climb. And, well, there is no bridge, is there?
No, not much left of that. But like you said, Mathieu van der Poel, one of the few riders that might be able to bunny hop over that one. I've got to say thank you to Swaledale Mountain Rescue Team for providing us with that photo. An organisation doing great work up in Yorkshire. Apparently they've saved a couple of cyclists that have got themselves into trouble over the past few months. Right, finally this week, we learned that you are better off playing a PS4 for earnings than you are in racing a push bike. This is after the news that last week in New York, we had the culmination of the Fortnite World Cup, and the winner of that competition, 16-year-old Kyle, came away with $3 million in prize money.
Not bad for a fortnight's work, is it?
Bubba, start as you mean to go on, Chris.
Every finalist also took home over 50 grand minimum, and the total prize pot was $30 million.
Which is quite incredible, really,
absurd,
isn't it? My oldest son, Ralph, when he started his GCSE courses, he decided to sell his PS4 because he realised that he was spending too much time on that and not enough time studying, which was quite something really for a 14-year-old as he was at the time. But in hindsight, I'm starting to think maybe he would have been better off spending his time on the PS4 rather than studying for his GCSEs. Certainly better off than riding a push bike for a living.
Yeah, you might be right there. After seeing the prize list released by the UCI in their latest press release, the total prize pot for the Tour de France, €2.25 million, and unsurprisingly, Team Ineos came away at the top with €800,000. But scroll right down to the bottom, and it was Total Direct Energy going home with only €17,760.
Which is not a lot for 3 weeks of quite hard graft, is it? And actually, if you go to the Inner Ring blog, website we can thoroughly recommend if you haven't looked at it before, according to them, 7% of that prize money will immediately go to the CPA, which is the Riders' Union. 2% goes straight to the UCI for their anti-doping organisation, which is the CADF, and 3% will go to the Federation of the country, which organised the race.
Yeah, then Cycling Services, a Dutch company, which is in charge of managing all of the prize money and distributing it between the teams and the riders, they take home another 3%. And then the staff, so the staff behind the scenes, they take another cut, and depending on the team, that's 10 to 15% for them as well.
It is, yes. And then different teams have different ways of distributing the prize money at the end of the season. So what some of them do is they pull all of the prize money from the season and distribute it amongst the riders based on how many days of racing they've done. Other teams will take the money from a particular race and divide it amongst the riders within that race.
Yeah, so in this circumstance, Direct Energy are going home with just €12,000. That's then got to be divided between the 8 riders, which were works out around 1,500 each, which then, when you take into account the 40% tax that they're likely to pay on top of that, they're going home with only 900 euros after 3 weeks of racing.
And we've been doing some more calculations, haven't we? So for their best placed rider on GC, Ryan Tarame, he took just over 85 hours to complete the Tour de France this year. So if you take his prize money, he basically earned 10 euros an hour, or 25 cents per kilometre.
Should have stuck to Fortnite, Dan.
Yeah, or maybe just stuck to doing some GCSEs. I mean, we joke, of course, but basically, cycling's slightly different, isn't it, than other sports? So golf and tennis, the athletes generally get most of their money from prize money, whereas in cycling, most of the money that you earn comes from the salary that your pro team give you. But how much exactly do the pro riders earn? Well, I got into contact with 5 rider agents who have a good idea what different riders earn, and we asked them the salaries that they thought that 5 different riders from the pro peloton would earn, and the results are now in.
Yep, but before we give you the answer, first up we're going to choose Peter Sagan, current man in form, certainly over the last 3 years. The only person to win the World Rainbow Jersey 3 times in a row. Does anyone here have a guess as to how much he's earning per year? Don't be shy.
7 million.
7 million. But I'm not sure you're allowed to play this game, Mark. Anyone else? $500,000. Right, so I'm just looking for it here now. Average estimates for Sagan's total salary was 5.5 million euros.
It was, yeah, from his team, and some of that will come from Specialized, who sponsor Bora Hansgrohe. But it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it, to get about €500,000 per month landing into your bank account. And as he lives in Monaco, he won't have to pay much tax on it either.
It's just above minimum wage, though.
Yeah, probably is. The next rider we asked about was a guy called Emmanuel Buchmann, who's not the most well-known cyclist in the whole world, but he probably will be soon, because he just finished 4th at the age of 26 at the Tour de France. So we asked the rider agents what they thought he would be earning before that result. The average for Buchmann was €400,000, but just to show you how important a result like that at the Tour de France is, the agents thought that after this year, with a new contract, he'll be on 1.4 million, which is a pay rise for 3 weeks' work of 250%.
Sounds all right, that does.
It does, doesn't it?
Right, sticking with Bora Hansgrohe, we've got another rider there. Daniel Oss, I think he's quite recognisable, long frizzy hair. Spends most of his career riding for other riders. Any estimates as to how much Daniel Oss is taking home each year? Right, so the estimates came back and they were between 300,000 and 750,000, but the average estimate is around 525.
Which is a pretty good wage, isn't it, for someone who just helps other people on their bikes. And the final rider that we asked about, we wanted a neo-pro, which is basically somebody in their first year as a professional rider. So for this, we took the example of Australian James Whelan, 23-year-old, whose results as an amateur were good enough to net him a 2-year contract with EF Education First. Any guesses for James Whelan? Yeah, almost spot on. So the average guess from the agents was €60,000, which is about 50% higher than the UCI's minimum wage for a World Tour rider. And actually, not bad, really, for a 23-year-old, with prospects of earning a lot more in the near future.
Yeah, so to highlight a bit of an issue within pro cycling at the moment, we thought we'd ask the agents what they believe Annemiek van Vleuten is taking home each year. World Time Trial champion, winner of the Giro Rossa, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Strade Bianca, pretty much every other race, in fact. Currently, even at the age of 36, she's going from strength to strength every single season and only seems to be getting better. But how much is she taking home each year?
75.
That's not a bad guess, actually.
50.
The answer is, the estimate at least, 130,000.
Which is a big discrepancy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is basically 25% of what a super domestique earns on the men's side, and it is 2.5% what Peter Sagan earns. And to put that into even more perspective, it basically means that Peter Sagan earns in 10 days what Annemiek van Vleuten earns in the entire year. Not a huge surprise, because we all know the big discrepancy between the finances of the men's and the women's side of the sport. But when you hear it like that in numbers, it really is unbelievably huge, isn't it? And just goes to show how far cycling's got to come to get to a sport like tennis, where there's almost parity between the two.
Yeah, and because of that reason, because there is a severe lack of parity in the sport, we decided not to ask what female riders slightly further down the pecking order are earning, because we know there is no UCI minimum wage for them at the moment, and most of them are either backed financially by family, or they're working a full-time job next to their professional careers, which is absurd, really. But that does lead us on to the next question. How do you go about bringing parity to men's and women's cycling? But that's such a big topic, we're not going to go into it here now. That warrants a video or a series of videos of their own.
It does, and we should probably broach that subject fairly soon, shouldn't we? In fact, if you've got any ideas on that subject, please leave them in the comments section below. Before we finish on this, if you will allow me, Chris, I'm going to tell a story from my racing days.
I'm just going to check that everyone sat comfortably, because I know what your stories are like.
Yes.
And if someone could stoke the little fire that's down there, yeah.
So this is a story from back in 2006 when I was racing for the Giant Asia team. So as you know, Chris, with most races, you have to wait a long time before you get your prize money because they have to make sure that the doping controls come back negative, etc. And it's sometimes the end of the season, sometimes it's the next year before you see it. Not so at the Tour of Qinghai Lake over in China, as I discovered in 2006, where we romped it that year. In that team, we didn't win, but we came 2nd, 4th and 7th overall. Our 2 Iranian riders were the first 2 in the Asian classification. We won the KOM classification and the teams in about 3 stages. And we came away with $60,000 of prize money, which is more than half the teams in the Tour de France that year. But you got it straight away. What you have to do is go into kind of a smoke-filled room with the organisers and I presume the local mafia, by the look at them, that basically pay for the race. And you tell them how much prize money you think you've earned over the course of the race as a team. And if it tallies up with what they've got on their computer, they just hand it over to you in an envelope in US dollar bills.
Wow, and I bet yours matched perfectly.
It did, yes. I've got a knack with numbers. In fact, I know exactly what's in my wallet at any time, even though I've not opened it for 3 years. Next up, it's GCN Inspiration, which is, of course, your chance to win one of 3 Wiggle voucher amounts. To enter, you now have to upload your pictures using our uploader, which you can find a link to in the description just below. First place will get you £100 of Wiggle vouchers to spend on whatever you want. Second place gets you £75. And third place, which we're about to get onto now, will get you £50. And this week, that goes to...
Joseph in 3rd. Budget Peugeot CX bike, as seen on Screw, riding upgrades, buy upgrades. Oh, I remember that one, actually. I did that with John. Went for an evening off-road ride with my girlfriend and ended up riding back and forth through a stream for an hour in the evening sun.
And that's what cycling's about, isn't it? Just going out and having fun.
How cool is that jersey as well? The Mapai jersey.
It is very cool indeed. I don't know why I looked up there. I've got a picture here. Anyway, in second place, we have got Ignacio from Lapland. I did look up how to pronounce the exact place in Lapland earlier, but I've completely forgotten it and I'm not going to mangle it. Anyway, 12 days of bike packing with a friend through Lapland and the north coast of Norway, suffering from mosquito bites, long hours pushing the bike through single track trails, but everything was worth it to enjoy one of the most spectacular views of my life. And that is quite spectacular. Not surprised you enjoyed that.
First place goes to Oleg's in Jumala, Latvia. Finally got out in the real world on a bike. 6 weeks ago, I crashed on a mountain bike and broke a collarbone. Missed some good weather, but found a way to like Zwift. The whole thing also made me rethink my cycling habits in a good, more adventurous and exploring way.
That's a great photo, isn't it?
I like those socks.
Thoroughly deserved the £100 prize for first this week. Don't forget to enter for next week. Use the uploader, a link to which is down below.
It's now time for cycling shorts.
Cycling shorts now, and we're going to start this week with a little bit of art. I'm sure we've all seen Strava art at some point over the years. My favourite was a bear drawn by someone in the Cotswolds in the UK a few years ago. But have you ever seen anyone write a marriage proposal whilst out on a bike ride with their girlfriend?
No? Well, you have now, yes. This is John Blaze from over in Texas in the USA, who took his girlfriend, now fiancée, Tao Nayan, for a 15.7-mile bike ride. Quite a frustrating bike ride by all accounts, because as you can see, there were plenty of U-turns involved. Amazingly, she stuck with him throughout, and at the end of the 15.7 miles, this is what she found. That must actually be one of the longest marriage proposals ever, mustn't it?
Yeah, 90 minutes, you'd have thought so. Most last a couple of seconds or so, and they're told to stand back up. Mine did. Anyway, do you reckon she wrote a reply in the same way?
I don't know. Well, no would have been a shorter ride than yes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, possibly. But you said she's now the fiancée.
Yes, so she did say yes.
What would you write if you could do a Strava ride? A bit of Strava art?
Actually, I was going to do one a few years ago. I was going to write out, I used to ride for the Cervelo test team. But it was going to be over 100 miles, so basically I couldn't be bothered and didn't do it. Next up, we got quite an interesting email from friend of the channel, Hannah Grant, last week. Long-term viewers of GCN might remember that she did plenty of really amazing recipes for us in the early days of GCN, but just recently, she's been working on something very different.
Yeah, that's right. Over the last year, Hannah and her new team of people behind the startup have been working in a company called ERW, and specifically they've been trying to create the My Flight Pack.
They have indeed, which is basically a 3-step hydration solution to conquer jet lag. So they've been working with Dr. Stacey Sims, who's an American sports physiologist. And basically the aim of this is to allow athletes or even business people that travel on long-haul flights regularly the ability to travel on those long-haul flights and get to the other end as fit and as fresh as possible.
Apparently it's tested on humans as well, Dan.
Was it?
Anyway, moving on to transfer news now. And apparently Dan Martin might be signing for Team Arkea Samsic for next year. They seem to be building what looks like it could be a monster team compared to what they've had over recent years.
They do, yeah. Although we don't now need to stick to just rumours, do we? Because the official transfer window opened on August the 1st, so they can announce what transfers have been made. Haven't been many, actually, because we're filming this on August the 2nd, aren't we? But what we have seen so far is that the European champion Matteo Trentin has been confirmed as moving from Mitchelton Scott over to Team CCC. And also Lucinda Brand is going from Team Sunweb over to Trek Segafredo.
Talking of Team Sunweb, Dutch website De Limburger last week was claiming that Tom Dumoulin looks to be trying to get out of his current contract, his long-term contract with the team. This is because of a Dutch employment law.
Yeah, I read that myself, actually, and I did wonder whether it might put future teams off signing him on a long-term contract if he can just get out of it whenever he wants because of the Dutch employment law.
Yeah, you think it might, but Dutch team Jumbo-Visma don't appear to be too put off by this at all. No, it wouldn't be cycling shorts in August without a brief mention of the crazy world that is the post-tour crits. If you ever want to see one of your favourite riders riding a surprisingly bizarre result in a slightly staged bike race and drinking out of a beer glass bigger than your average kitchen sink, then post-tour crits is where you want to be.
They're pretty cool, aren't they? Basically, the better you do at the Tour de France, the more money you are going to earn by starting each one of these crits. So to give you an example, when I did the Tour de France back in 2010, I still had to pay to get into these crits at the end of it. But in all seriousness, we can thoroughly recommend going along to see one if there's one near you. Most of them are in Belgium or the Netherlands or France, but you get to see your favourite riders while sipping on a beer at the edge of the course.
Yeah, and as for atmosphere, you've got food, you've got music, you've got lighting, beer. As we mentioned, the stage racing, lots of showing off and just having good fun.
Sounds like a GCN event to me.
Talking about things that are a little bit bizarre, Dylan Tones hasn't been going to the post-tour crits because, and he wasn't actually at Classica San Sebastian either, was he?
No.
Because he's had a bizarre accident of his own.
He has, yeah. This was just after the Tour de France. He went home and had an accident in the garden, doing some gardening on his tractor. Don't know how big his garden is at home. When it had a fault and basically did an emergency stop. And so violent was the stop that he hit his head on the steering wheel and required 15 stitches.
Blimey.
Yeah, which actually reminds me of another story from back in my racing days, Chris.
Is it tractors or is it stitches?
If you will let me tell another one.
Tractors or stitches?
Neither, actually. It involves teeth. Also dates back to 2006. 3 of us in a bar after a race had actually found out that all 3 of us had lost front teeth at some point. So we started telling the stories of how that happened. David McCann started, you remember him? He was doing the Ampost Ras and he got to the foot of a descent and the forks on his bike collapsed and he just hit the tarmac at full speed and lost 2 front teeth. I then recounted my equally epic cycling story of doing the World Championships, going head over heels when the barriers were out in the finishing straight and basically landing with my teeth on one of the feet of the barriers and losing 4 here. Last person, German, Tobias. Ready?
Yeah.
He was 12 and he walked into his dad's shed in the garden and trod on a rake.
Ooh.
It wasn't quite the epic story of cycling that we were expecting at the time.
Moving on, did you know that 65% of people in the UK didn't realise you had to pedal an e-bike?
Well, I must admit, when I first got on an e-bike, I was quite disappointed that it didn't just go somewhere without pedalling.
I'm going to read this off the sheet now because Halford's State of the Nation 2019 e-bike report has also revealed that 28% of people think they're not fit enough to ride a bike, 16% feel they're too old to cycle, and 28% are put off by the hills.
I think I can empathise with all 3 of those points, if I'm perfectly honest. Next up, our partners here at GCN for our shoes, Physique, have just brought out some brand new shoes. They are called the Overcurve R4s. And I think you'll agree, they look pretty smart. 4 colours are available. You can get them either in white or in iridescent copper, or in black, or in beetle black. Not entirely sure what the difference between beetle black and black is.
Auto-fastening buckles or not?
Unfortunately, not, no.
Maybe in a software update later down the line?
Perhaps. If you can only hope, can't you?
Moving on, and we had this lovely message from Ver de Burgess last week, who was inspired by our very own Dan Lloyd.
Oh. First time for everything, isn't it?
Yep, she was inspired by what you'd said on the GCN Tour de France preview show about riding your bike every single day whilst the Tour de France is on. So, whilst the tour was on, she did indeed ride her bike every single day, including on the rest days, and has racked up an impressive 846 kilometres over those 3 weeks.
That is impressive. Very well done to you, Verda. Equally impressive, actually, is the fact that apparently it only rained for one of the 23 days, which is nicely lucky. Right, we're going to finish Cycling Shorts this week with news from Zwift, because they've just added an extra loop to their Watopia part. So it's called the Titans Grove, and it's inspired by Sequoia Forest in the High Sierras. I don't know exactly where that is, but the new stretch of undulating road is going to add 158 metres of elevation gain to your ride if you choose to do it. You'll be riding between giant sequoia trees, between giant rock formations, and past spouting waterholes. Sounds very scenic indeed, doesn't it?
Back to me in the studio now for more news, although thankfully of a better nature this time round. And the epic transcontinental race has just been won by German rider Fiona Kolbinger. She, almost unbelievably, was doing her first ever ultra endurance bike race. And what a debut she's made, also becoming the first woman to win the race outright as well, covering the 4,000 kilometre route in an incredible 10 days, 2 hours and 48 minutes. And actually the remaining podium spots are still up for grabs. The Brit Ben Davies and Dutchman Joop Hendricks are still duking it out on course. As you can see from the map, the remaining 250 riders are very much strung out right across Europe, and actually 75 have already called it a day, succumbing to the Eastern European heatwave that we have been having. For more news updates on this, do make sure you check out news from the race organisers and more of Angus Sung's incredible photography, the link to which is in the description beneath this video.
It is now time for Hack/Bodge of the Week, and we've got some corkers for you this week. First up, this one from Evan Darling, who's found an ingenious way to capture his bike ride. I mean, that is brilliant, isn't it? That's a hack from me. If we could come up with one of those, we could get rid of half of our production team.
I'm pretty sure we could.
GCN Avoriaz. What are you saying, hack or bodge for the first one?
Oh, there's a lot of green.
There is. It's about 70-30 hack for that one, so well done to you, Evan.
Brendan Connor up next. The rubber band that comes with broccoli works well to keep tyre levers together. Hack 2 is to use painter's tape to keep safety pins in one place on the way to a race.
Right, should we go for the first one first?
Start with the broccoli.
Is using the pink elastic band that keeps broccoli together to hold your tyre levers together a hack or a bodge?
I honestly thought tyre levers clipped into each other.
It's quite a surprising number of hacks. Actually, only on the entirely bodge on the right, but 50-50 on the left. Right, well, that's going to be a bodge. And what about the
safety
sticky
pins.
tape for the safety pins? Yeah.
Yeah, bodge.
Sorry about that. 2 bodges for you.
I agree with that. What's wrong with using one of those little tubs like everyone else?
Right, we're sticking with the vegetable theme. This one came in from Gary Barstow, who put Glasgow. Effing love you, mate. Got a marrow in the bottle cage. Transporting your vegetables by bike. Is that a hack or a bodge? That is close.
Yeah, it's close. I think it's slightly more hack.
On that side it is. Slightly more bodge on that side. 50-50.
Yeah.
You're cool.
It's a bodge, to be honest, isn't it? You'd normally carry a courgette in a
Right,
rucksack.
I'm going to say hack. 50-50 here as well. Right, next up.
Next up, we have Alex Hall, who has had 2 bee stings through his forehead in the last month, some mesh from the garden centre, and a little super glue. Hey presto, helmet mesh.
Right, what
I
are
mean,
you saying?
it's quite clever.
It's a helmet mesh.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah,
of
I'd say
hack.
that's a hack. Because you do often get flies through your helmet, don't you? They're
You
pretty
do, yeah.
annoying.
Yeah.
Some helmets come with those.
Yeah, they do.
Not many,
But they're really
so-
hot,
Are they?
generally.
No more hot than an aero helmet, surely.
No.
Anyway, next up, this one came in from Christine. Not my bike, over in Palo Alto in California.
Clearly their bike.
Yes. It's basically, it looks like a sort of a child seat that's been made out of the front end of an old steel bike with the top tube and the forks, pedals on the bottom of it. What do you think of that one, hack or bodge?
Oh, that's negative on this side of the
It
road.
is, yeah, I'd say that's a bodge
Yeah.
overall. I'm surprised about that.
I
thought
actually
that'd
think
be
that's a
great.
hack.
Well, I do as well. Kids love sitting on the
Yeah.
top tube, don't they? The saddle's got to be more comfortable than sitting on the top tube with a cushion.
I've got a story actually. Since my kids were born, I've always sat them on the top tube, put my arms under their armpits and pedalled along. The day before my daughter's 4th birthday last year, she was happily swinging her legs along and one of them went into the front wheel. Spent the night in A&E, broke a leg. Nothing, as a parent, nothing is worse than the guilt of breaking your child's leg. Awful.
Told you.
So that's why, that's a hack. Because what I was doing was clearly a bodge.
Well, because I've got pedals to get the feet onto.
Liam N. Mel. Here's a GCN hack for you. I modified my old Le Mans G4 spin bike with a custom programmed Bluetooth module so it works with Zwift. A smart trainer for $30. Don't mind if I do.
Right, I don't know if anyone else knows what's going on in this photo. I certainly didn't, but is it a hack or a bodge? $30 smart trainer for Zwift.
I think it's absolute genius.
Yeah, hack. It's a hack from our audience. And along the same lines, we had this one sent in from Simon on our uploader, who's created an electric shifter for the resistance of his watt bike. Have a look at this, it's a video.
I don't see an electric button there. That's someone pulling a piece of string. Wow, it looks like a bodge.
Yeah, I think it's been deemed a bodge.
I actually thought it was quite clever.
Next up, this from Carl. Most of my wife's co-workers are engineers, and she saw this in the bike rack at work when she parked her own bike. She doesn't know the owner or the story behind it, and neither do we. So we thought we'd get the help firstly from our live audience here in Avoriaz, but also from you at home if you'd like to leave in the comments. What on earth is going on here? Any ideas? Help movement of the pelvis? That's what I was going to say, yeah. So that is a bodge, and that's the last one for this week. Don't forget to get involved for next week's GCN show. The hashtag on social media is GCN Hack, or again, you can use the uploader down below. Next up, we have our weekly Caption competition, which is your chance to get your hands on a GCN Camelback water bottle. Last week's photo was this one from the final day of the Tour de France, up to the Champs-Élysées. This is the polka dot jersey wearer Romain Bardet with his teammate Oliver Naesen, who's on a steel bike actually for that last day, a steel Eddy Merckx. The winner this week is...
William Vardy, who has... Oliver, how much did you pay for that bike? I don't know why I've done it in that accent, I'm really sorry. That was my French accent.
Yeah, well done, William, in France. Let us know your address over in France, and we'll get that bottle straight out to you. Send us a message on Facebook with your address, and we'll get a GCN Camelback bottle.
I've not even read out the punchline yet.
Have you not? Okay, well, do that bit first then.
To which the punchline is, nothing. It was a steal. That's because he's on a steel bike.
Yeah, right.
You might not know that from that picture.
Well done to you, William. We'll get that Camelback bottle out to you as soon as we possibly can if you send us your address as a message on Facebook. This week's photo is this one from the Toulouse time trial at the Tour de France. It's the first time I've actually thought of a caption and then had to find the photo for it.
Oh, wow.
This is a time trial, which in England we also call testing sometimes, don't we, doing time trials? So my caption for this one is testing, 1, 2. I just picked the number 12 from the Tour de France, which is Emmanuel Bookman, actually, as it happens, but that's my caption for this week. If you can do better, which I'm no doubt you can, leave your captions in the comments down below, and we'll pick a winner this time next week. Before we get on to what's coming up on the channel and our favourite comments from the previous week, we're going to answer one of your training-related questions. This is, of course, your opportunity to win 3 months free subscription to Zwift. All you need to do is ask a training-related question in the comment section down below and use the hashtag AskGCNTraining. Winner this week is Roger Walker-Arnott with this question. It's in my second year taking cycling relatively seriously, and in 3 weeks' time, along with 3 friends, I'll be attempting London to Paris in 24 hours. I'll be sleeping there and doing the same thing in reverse the following day. At this stage, I guess whatever training I've done will need to be enough. So what he's been doing are longer 60 to 80 mile rides on the weekend and then shorter rides during the week. He did a big test, which was the Dunwich Dynamo 111 mile event, followed by a 50 mile ride back to Colchester after just a short rest. At the end of the day, his question is, at what point should I start to taper off, and how many days before the big ride should I start to rest completely?
Blimey, that sounds like an absolutely mad goal. And Roger, as ever, these questions get sent away to the coaches at Zwift and they come back with the answer, to which it sounds like your training's going really well, doesn't it? You've got everything lined up and your preparation for the event has actually gone really smoothly and you're going to be fit enough to cope with it. So then we need to address your taper, and to start with that, your taper is based around the volume of training that you are maintaining leading into the event.
That's right. So basically, the more training, the bigger the volume of training you've been doing, the longer your taper should be, and vice versa. If you've been doing less volume, your taper should be slightly shorter. So anything really from about 3 to 10 days, but you never need to taper for weeks, do you?
No, you don't. And from the information that you've given us, we would suggest that you carry on, or the coaches would suggest that you carry on with around 6 to 7 endurance rides with the same intensity as you were doing before, but address your volume. So you want to reduce your total volume by around 20 to 30%. So if you're doing 6 hours a week, if you're doing 9 hours a week, bring that down to 6.
Yeah, and our big influence on how you get on these back-to-back rides is, of course, going to be your nutrition. And there's some latest science out, apparently, according to the Zwift coaches, that suggests that for your taper, in the last 36 hours, you should be consuming per day 8 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And as I said, start at 36 hours before the event. And of course, during the event, the old rules apply. Eat little and often, fast-acting carbohydrates so that you don't blow up. We wish you the best of luck with that. Right, we're going to move on to a couple of our favourite comments now. We've only got a couple, actually, because we're filming this just a couple of days after the previous GCN show. But first up was this one, underneath a video that you did with Hank. Joseph Bleasdale. I feel as though Hank and Chris would have been those kids at the back of class who always threw paper aeroplanes and drew willies on their worksheets, but in the end could never function if the other wasn't there. And they kind of hit the nail on the head there, I think. They're like little kids at the office. The only good thing about that is that they make even me seem quite mature.
Yeah, except it wasn't willies, it was bicycles on all of our workbooks, I expect. Didn't actually go to school together either. Next up, we've got a comment from underneath last week's show, Neil Moss. At 7 minutes 50, there was a definite breach of UCI rule 2.2.025 there. Riders may not, without due care, jettison food, bonk bags, feeding bottles, clothes, etc. in any place whatsoever. It's a 200 Swiss franc fine.
That's easy for you to say, Chris. Next up, we had this from King John III. For your information, a dozen donuts will fit on your drop bars, which is great if you never use them. You have to remind me which video that was on.
That was under our How to Carry Your Calories video, which Hank and I did over at the French trip we did back at the start of July.
Must admit, I've never tried that with drop handlebars, but I might do it at some point in the near future. Right then, coming up on the channel this week, on Wednesday, we are going to show you how to replace your car with a bike, which should be interesting. On Thursday, we've got the top 10 climbers of all time. And on Friday, it's another gravel how-to. This time, it's about how to select your gears properly.
On Saturday with Ollie, we've got a preview of the World Road Race Championship circuit up in Yorkshire. Then Sunday, is a ketogenic diet good for cycling? Presumably they didn't do the 2 videos at the same time.
No, it's an Ollie weekend though, isn't it? He's been very busy.
Monday's the racing news show with you and Marty.
It is, it's with Marty because we'll be travelling back from this Chris on Monday. And on Tuesday, we'll be back in the set for the GCN Show, episode 345. We shall finish, as ever, with Extreme Corner, which this week is a video trailer from AMP Global Media for a new film which is called Vision. It's a female-led mountain bike freeride video which features Veronique Sandler.
There it is. Feast your eyes.
Basically like stepping into a roller coaster, you just follow the train.
Oh, that does look good, doesn't it?
It looks great fun, yeah.
Bit like the trails out here in Avoriaz. Maybe tomorrow, instead of doing the ride, I can do that.
Well, you could do. They do look tempting, don't they?
Lots of
I think we all
in.
know how it would end for you if you did try those downhill
Big
trails.
smiles?
Yeah. For the onlookers, perhaps. Right, that is the trailer for the film, but it is out now for download if you'd like to go and watch the full film.
That's it from us here in Avoriaz. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, do give us a big thumbs up. But before you go, if you haven't already, click on the link to watch Ollie's epic 200-kilometre gravel ride over in Iceland.